Hey girl, hey. Hey boys, hey. Welcome back to my channel. It's MAMABUDEEZ here. Welcome everyone. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, because this is a place where we do not hate. We participate, we articulate, we speculate, and if you don't act right, we'll have to regulate. We can agree to disagree as long as you watch your delivery. I'm a poet and didn't know it. I am saying the exact same thing that I said before. What's it look like? Brandy, I feel so weird repeating myself. Is it still blurry? Is it blurry? If it's blurry, it's because I didn't reset the internet. If it's not blurry, I figured out what's wrong with it. So please tell me if you can see me clearly. It was good before I left. What? I'm so confused. Do it with just voice. It is blurry. Okay, let me try something. 1 second. Oh no. Okay, I'll figure it out. It's better? It's getting better? Okay. Darn it. This is not cool because I worked so hard on this book, you guys. It's been months of me putting together this information, and it's just, I want it to be delivered. Okay, good. Perfect. Hey, everyone. So sorry about the technical difficulties. You know how it is, especially on a Saturday when everybody is on the internet and their brother. So let me make sure my phone is disconnected off of it. Okay, so let's get started. Now, what we are going to do with this book is I'm going to give you a review, but we all know every detail of this case. So why would we want to go over the details all over again? So I wanted to approach this book differently. I wanted to approach it as the psychology side and let you see that when Rotz was with Shanann, he didn't show these signs of a narcissist. He wasn't like a blatant narcissist. He was what we call a covert narcissist or a communal narcissist. And the book doesn't start out telling you about the covert narcissist or the communal narcissist. And I feel like you should know these things before we get into the book. That way you know what to be looking for, because Chris did show a lot of these signs, but the communal and covert, if you don't know what to look for, you would never know they exist. But the craziest part about this case is by the time that Chris got to prison, or Rotz got to prison, I'm just going to call him Rotz because piss Rotz. Anyway, by the time he got to prison, he became a blatant narcissist. We all saw him want to be talked about. We all saw him become this arrogant hottie. He would play the people that came to visit him and manipulate them, and he would do everything to his advantage. He messed with the FBI agents later on back in March of last year. And so it was just, or February, it was just this blatant, obvious narcissist by the end. So Shanann would have never been able to know that she was with this kind of person because he didn't let it show to her until the very end. And then once he got to prison, he was like, I don't need to be communal anymore. I don't need to be covert. I can just be a flat out narcissist. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So let me give you the DSM-5 definition of a person with narcissistic personality disorder. Now, you're going to say this does not sound like the Chris that we knew that was with Shanann. And you're right, because there was two different Chris's. There was the communal covert narcissist Chris that Shanann had, and then there was the blatant narcissist Chris that went to prison that we all got played by. So let me read this. When I read the narcissistic personality disorder, it's going to sound like the Chris that we all know today, the Chris that's sitting in prison. This is not the Chris that Shanann knew, or she would have ran. She would have gotten out. She would have known. But he didn't let this side of himself show until later. I love you too, love. Okay, so a person that fits the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder is they show a pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or in their behavior. They have a need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and it begins as early as young adulthood. It's present in variety of contexts, and they give a criteria or indicators of 9. And in order to be a narcissist or to have the personality disorder, you have to present 5 of them. Okay. So we know that he wouldn't present these before when he was with Shanann, but he does present 5 of these 9 now today while he sits in prison. And one has a grandiose sense of self-importance. He thinks his case is the best one on the planet. He exaggerates achievements and talents. He expects to be recognized as superior without commensurating achievements. He thinks that he is the new preacher. He thinks that he is reformed and he needs to be looked up to for being reformed, for his dramatic change, for getting close to God. And he is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. He still thinks he may get out one day. He still thinks that he may end up having a loving relationship with someone and getting married one day. They believe that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or associated with other special or high status people. And we've seen him act like that as well. And they require excessive admiration, and they have a sense of entitlement, unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. Just like he assumed that Sherilyn Cato would allow him to watch her granddaughter if he was to ever get out one day, because that was just an unrealistic expectation, if it was even true. Now that we know that she's a plagiarizer, we don't know if half the stuff that she said is even true, but if it was, this is where that comes in. So then the other one is interpersonally exploitative. So they take advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. Lack of empathy is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others, is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of them, and they show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. So those are the criteria to have narcissistic personality disorder. Now, Shanann would have noticed that. Shanann would have been like, she was a very smart girl. She was kind and compassionate. If she got the Chris that we all got while he's been sitting in prison, she would have ran for the hills from day one, but she didn't. This kind of narcissist that Shanann ended up having. Let me read this to you. My notes. He was a covert and a communal narcissist with her. Exactly, Melinda. Okay, so the communal narcissist and the covert narcissist are very hard to pick up on, because where a typical narcissist will be obvious in their elated sense of self and their arrogance when they're interacting with people, the covert narcissist is less obvious. The covert craves importance and thirsts for admiration, but it looks different to those around them. They might give backhanded compliments, or purposely minimize their accomplishments or talents just so they can fish for compliments. And you can say, no, you're not that bad. You're amazing. So in their mind, he'll know that he is the best in the oil fields, but he'll try to tell his coworkers that he's not that great just so they will tell him he is great, right? They called him Rain Man at work. So then, the typical narcissist will demand for admiration and attention, where the covert narcissist will use softer tactics to meet those same goals. The covert will much more likely be constantly seeking reassurance about their talents, skills, and accomplishments. They look for others to feed that same need of self-importance. So they don't really think that about themselves out in the open. They're not walking around being all conceited and arrogant, but they're trying to get other people to tell them that they're great. So that is where they feed their need right there. Also, shaming others is another tactic of the typical narcissist in order to secure their sense of elevated position. But the typical narcissist might be more obvious in their approach in gaining leverage. But the covert may have a more gentle approach to explaining why something is your fault and they are not to blame. They might even pretend to be a victim of your behavior to put themselves in a position to get reassurance or praise from you. At the end of these interactions, the goal of the covert is to make the other person feel small. It's all your fault. It has nothing to do with me. And then, although not always sneaky, some covert narcissists can take joy in creating confusion for someone. They may not engage in blaming or shaming, but they'll cause you to question the way you see things and second guess yourself. Another way to create leverage between them and another person is what they'll do is use tactics like elevating themselves to maintain power, and they'll try to get you to question the way you are seeing things. And this allows them the opportunity to manipulate you. Because their need for self-importance reigns supreme, a covert narcissist will do whatever they need to do in order to keep the focus on themselves. So where a typical narcissist will blatantly push you to the side or manipulate you, the covert is a professional at not acknowledging you at all. So they will just ignore you and pretend like you don't exist. Does this not sound like what Chris did to Shanann at the end? Listen, it's not a coincidence that narcissists in general tend to gravitate towards interacting with caring and compassionate people. The covert narcissist recognizes those as opportunities for manipulation. They have no problem letting you know that you are not important. And he didn't respond to her text. He was letting her know, look, I'm busy. I'm doing my own thing. You're not important. She was the last on his list. Rather than explicitly telling you that you're not important, they might stand you up on a date, wait until the last minute to respond to text or emails, always show up late for events with you, or never make confirmed plans with you at all. There's no regard for your time or interest, leaving you feeling small, unimportant, and irrelevant. So they are not able to build and nurture emotional bonds. And how could they know how to maintain bonds with others if their energy is always focused on themselves? The covert narcissist is no different. So although they may appear kinder and less obnoxious than the typical narcissist, they are not emotionally accessible or responsive either. You will likely not receive many compliments from a covert narcissist, remembering that they are always focused on staying elevated to maintain their sense of self-importance. It is easy to understand how a covert narcissist would find it difficult to compliment you. There is usually little regard for your talents or abilities. Usually the narcissist has no regard for these things at all. And we all saw how he acted towards Shanann. We saw that she had a major presence on social media. She was good at it. She was good at sales, but he didn't want nothing to do with that. He didn't want to give her praise or to elevate her for what she did in the Thrive business. He wanted to pretend like it wasn't even existing. He wanted to pretend like it was no big deal, like she wasn't succeeding in this company, like she wasn't making all that money. He completely pretended like those, you saw the way that he acted when she tried to get him on camera. He just really wanted nothing to do with her accomplishments or things that she had done. Hey guys. Hey Chronic. Hey baby girl. I'm happy that you're here. So now let's get into the book so we can point out in all the chapters where Chris was being this covert communal narcissist. And Shanann would have never been able to tell, neither would you guys. But I'm hoping that after these videos of covering these books that you will be able to point these things out and pick up on these covert communal narcissists, because the signs are there, but they're just so good at mimicking. You saw how well he said those things in NK's cards that he gave her. He said all the right words. Everything was the right words because they memorized those things. They memorized the right things to say, the right way to act, and they just mimic them. The communal and covert narcissists do. So in chapter 1, we start off by, is it back to not good again? Is it is someone else having issues with the blur? I can just take the video off. Can you guys hear my voice fine? Okay, let's just switch it to that. Exactly. Soul sister, exactly. Okay. And Michael, you gotta not hate. Your camera is not good was a good comment, but the one right after about being 2004 was rude. So bye. I trolled you so. Okay, so now let's finish up because I really want you guys to hear this. Hopefully it can help somebody that might be with a narcissist today or not know that they're with a covert narcissist or a communal narcissist. So is everyone hearing my voice fine? Can you hear my voice good? I'm so sorry that I had to switch it. I didn't reset the internet, so it's my fault. I know that I have to reset the internet before I come on, but I didn't. Okay, so in Shanann's marriage, she thought it was close to perfect, you guys. There was a sudden change, and it was completely out of left field. Normally, he was doting and loving and attentive, and he had gone completely cold, unresponsive, and there was no rational explanation. So he started being aloof and distant and giving her false hope, just like a communal or covert narcissist would. And everyone that knew him said that he was always helping out other people. And we're getting all this from chapter 1. The friends said that he seemed like the happiest couple on earth, him and Shanann. And they appeared to be truly in love. They were affectionate. It didn't feel fake or forced. Chris was quiet and a great father. And he had always been quiet and calm and easy to be around. He was a true family man. His daughters were supposedly his world. And we go on to chapter 2, where he tells people here, he's trying to tell Cassie right out in the beginning, I don't want you to think that I'm a bad person, Cassie. He's more concerned about how people will perceive him than the actual task at hand of finding his family. And he appeared neat and well kept, and so did their home. for all intents and purposes, everything looked perfect. We can tell in chapter 2. But then all of a sudden we see that he's not acting right at all. He has exaggerated body movements. He's rocking back and forth. He's normally quiet and subdued, and he's very reserved. But in front of Nate's TV and in that living room, he was talking and talking. He never talks. But then he just started babbling in front of Nate's camera when he saw his truck back up. It was kind of suspicious. And so the cops even knew that in most domestic violence cases, that outward surfaces could show the most perfect homes and families, but it could be very deceiving. So at the end of chapter 2, we find out that after being with Shanann for 8 years, that they had a child on the way. And Chris at some point tried to convince everyone that he just fell out of love with her in 5 weeks, and he was willing to just throw in the towel and end his marriage completely because this is part of his dumping stage for a narcissist. In chapter 3, we have people saying Chris is self-contained, nice guy. He's just hard to get to know on a deeper level. But he always has a flat and devoid of emotion tone. So no one ever expected anything out of Chris like this. But he was always unable to meet eyes. He stared down and he was looking at the floor, acting very oddly in some of these body cam footages. There was a sudden shift in his behavior. This laid back and go with the flow guy seemed completely comfortable with Shanann making all the decisions in the relationship when they first got together. He seemed emotionally blank. It wasn't like him to show any emotion anyway. He was the most low-key guy that anyone had ever met. But there was a change in his behavior, and it was so sudden, you guys. It was the opposite of a smooth talking adulterer, but we all know that he was, right? His voice and his demeanor was totally calm and disaffected by the fact that his children and his wife were not home. And then he would go to agitated and annoyed. I did not feel any genuine emotion or concern from him whatsoever. And in chapter 4, the book talks about his behavior being incredibly bizarre and how while he was speaking, he showed no emotion. He did not seem to respond appropriately to the situation. His facial expressions rarely changed. He sometimes had a smirk and an inappropriate display of lack of empathy, specifically when he was talking about his own kids. His voice remained low, even-toned. His nonverbal cues were very apparent. He had a very erect and almost tense posture. He kept his arms crossed. He lacked eye contact. He appeared nervous, looking around constantly. And he was socially awkward and quiet. His eyes looked vacant, you guys, far off. His voice was complete monotone, except when the corners of his mouth turned up for a slightest smirk. He mixed his emotions with smiles and little laughs and suppressed smirks. His eyes seemed blank, almost soulless, and we find this out in chapter 4. His friends would call him a very trustworthy person. They know how calm I am, he kept telling investigators. He says he was never going to be abusive or physical in any kind of relationship. He says, my friends know I'm a low-key guy that's quiet. I'm not confrontational, not about anything that elevates me to that level. If someone yells or screams, I just take it. I try to get by the wayside and get back to where it's cool. Nothing gets me hyped, he says. I am not that person. I've never been that person. I'm a trustworthy person. So we all know what he's done at this point, but he is still able to talk about himself on this level. He is still able to say that he is this amazing guy. And we all know that he mimics the right thing to say because he kept using one phony cliche after another. Reciting an over-the-top romance novel is what he sounded like. And then he goes into all the things he does. See, this is where he held himself up on such a high level to the law enforcement, because he went in saying he did all of this. Listen how he talks about his fathering skills. He says, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I work out. I get that done. I eat some breakfast. I get the girls some milk. I fill up the water bottles. I make sure that the backpacks have a change of clothes, their hats. I make sure they have water shoes. I make sure they have sunscreen. I make sure they have the backpacks and their little blankies that I have laid all out. I go to work. I go pick them up. I go in there. I sign them out. I get in the car to drive back. Sometimes they're bossy, just like, and then he catches himself. His secret disdain for his wife almost came out. He says, I wash their hands. I sit them at the table. I get them all washed up. I get them dried out. I lotion them. I put their pajamas on. I get them a nighttime snack. And between 6:30 and 7, I read to them. I turn the rain machines on. I give them a good night kiss. I put them to bed. I close the door. And I tell them good night. And then he says to them, what have I said that makes you not believe me at all? And he starts to get upset when people do not believe him. That is the only time he gets upset. And then we know about the two Chris's. We find out in this chapter about the two Chris's because we've all followed the case and we know that Coder said this. And he said, number one, Chris fell out of love and started wondering what it might be like to not have a wife and girls to take care of. He spent time alone and he liked that time alone. And then there's the second Chris who loves the kids and loves his wife and would never, ever, ever do anything to harm them. But the second Chris didn't exist. The second Chris was mimicked. The second Chris was him doing the motions. The first Chris, the awful Chris, the monster Chris, is who he really was all along. The other one was a mask that fell off. He says, I care, I promise. If you care, it'll show. You don't have to promise. You shouldn't have to worry about them under my care. I watch them, he says, all weekend. I love those kids with all my heart. He says, I would never do anything to those kids or my wife. They are my life, he says. There's nothing in my life that means more. Nothing. He said, kids, that's your life. That's your lifeline. That's what it's always been. And that is just, again, him mimicking what other people have said about their own children. He's trying very hard to persuade law enforcement. He's continuing to fall flat. His disingenuous efforts are not convincing law enforcement. And they are telling him that nothing he's saying is making sense. And he says there was no fight. He tries to tell them there was nothing physical. It was just a conversation and that he didn't raise his voice. He says that they just going to go their separate ways and get an apartment. And he would try to sell the house first, of course. And then he tries to say that he was going to do a 50-50 thing. And then they ask him how he could turn into two different guys. He says, I've seen your smiling and seen where it's different. So he also says that he couldn't sleep in his house alone. And that was at the end of chapter 4. But then in chapter 5, we hear how he didn't want anything to do with the self-help book because he didn't, the narcissist in him didn't think there was anything wrong with him. He thought it was all shenan. He never opened it or even read it. So he wanted to put distance between him and shenan. And we all saw this happen. And that's exactly what a narcissist does when they're done with you. he acted like everything was totally normal, and he was nonchalant about his family being gone, as we can see in chapter 5. And his father, too, was a quiet and subdued man that never showed emotion. His father said that Chris was a role model son. He was never in trouble. He never did drugs. He never had mental issues. He was a great student, focused on sports. He prioritized. And I feel like that his father is a narcissist as well. And this is just him holding his narcissistic son on a higher level than everyone else. But in all actuality, he wasn't as great of a guy as he says he is. That's just him, his own narcissistic personality coming out in that as well. He tries to convince the law enforcement that he said he wanted a separation, that he didn't love her anymore, and he didn't sense anything was going on, but they just weren't all lovey-dovey like they used to be. And that's when Ronnie comes in, and Jack gives her, she's dead, and he gives her a backhanded jab and says that Shanann sits on her butt all the time. But we all knew that wasn't true. We saw her working all day long. She worked her little butt off. And the parents thought that Chris was running around taking care of the kids and feeding the kids and doing all the chores. But that's just because Chris was probably explaining it to them in his narcissistic way, that it was going down like that. I can't even read the things that Ronnie said about Shanann. So you go on to chapter 6, and they're saying that Chris, by all accounts, was kind, respectful, easygoing, calm, and cooperative. And that is because he was a covert and communal narcissist at that time. No one would ever been able to see that he was a blatant narcissist until he got to prison. People thought in chapter 6 that he was the most solid guy on the planet. People at work called him Rain Man. He went to oil sites and remembered explicit details afterwards. His grandmother would quiz him on the state capitals. And he had a very sharp memory and the ability to recall tiny details. Chris says that he had fallen out of love with Shanann and no longer felt compatible. No connection, which is part of the narcissistic dumping stage. Last time he said that they were intimate was when the baby was conceived, and he said he was the one initiating it and he was shot down, and that they were intimate probably once or twice a week. And when they asked him if she was unfaithful, he said, that would never happen. If he was unfaithful, he said, that would never happen. I'm not that kind of guy. But we knew he was lying. But in Chris's mind, he also thought that Shanann would never cheat on him because he was just so amazing. That was more part of his narcissistic behavior, thinking that he was so amazing that no one could ever cheat on him, even though she didn't. We all know she didn't. But Chris boasted, even though not a lot, he did to his friend Jeremy. And he said that he would, as soon as Jeremy said that Chris was the type of guy that he could send out of town with his wife and trust, Chris loved that. He started telling everybody that compliment that he got. He even told law enforcement that Jeremy had said that about him, about his wife. Chris bragged quite a bit about his stellar reputation to others. So instead of bragging and being conceited, he would brag about how good he was. So he was very, very good as a person, just so he could get those compliments from people about how well he was. That's how he fed his narcissistic supply, was being the best father and best husband he could possibly be, so he could fish for compliments by doing so. He says, people know what kind of person I am. I'm not that type of guy. My wife is gone. And then he says, who's the girl I can find in 5 weeks? That's not me. I respect my wife. She respects me. So he was flat out lying about not cheating. And he was flat out literally believing in his narcissistic head that she could never do anything like that to him. But in all actuality, had she found out that he was within case, she could have started up a relationship with someone else if she wasn't pregnant and never told him. But he's so narcissistic, he never thought that it could happen to him as well. He says, I just hope she's safe right now. I don't think it would be with a guy. And then he said, I would never had an inkling that she would do that or that she would do anything to me. He said that should be the last thing on her mind, because it was an ego deflation to even think of the fact of Shanann cheating on somebody as amazing as he is. He says that he was open to counseling, but he didn't want to do it because a narcissistic person will not do counseling unless they think that they can team up against the person that they're in the relationship with the counselor. The narcissistic person will accept counseling at times, but they think that they're going to get the counselor to agree with everything that they say. And so Chris' mind was made up about his wife. He was unwilling to do anything to help repair the relationship. He viewed it as irreparable and broken because he was done. And that's what they do. I mean, he was evil enough to even reassure Bella that she would see her mother in the morning, and he knew darn well that she wouldn't. He could have not said that to her. Why did he have to say that to her? Because he wanted to be the good daddy all the way up into the end. And it was just sick how twisted his mind really was. So he flat out tells her that morning that he doesn't have a connection with her anymore, and it wasn't working, and he didn't feel love, and that love that they had in the beginning was gone. And he tries to say that he was crying also. Yeah, right. He said that it wasn't like someone came in his life and took him away. There was no outside influence. And he says that he told her that. But of course, we never know what he really told her because he's told so many different versions. He did say that he was honest with her that morning. And he had nothing to do with the disappearance. He still continued to tell law enforcement. And they asked him, even in his polygraph, how he would do it. And he said he would lure someone into a trap. And that has always stuck with me. I've always wondered if that was a little bit of truth that we all haven't went down before. That if there was some kind of trap that morning set by Chris. He also said that a way that you can get rid of people is torture them and leave them without food or water or poison them. So I wonder if these thoughts ever went through his head. And then in chapter 7, he tries to convince them after failing a polygraph. You guys, this screams narcissist. After he failed the polygraph, that he promised that he wasn't lying. He insisted he wasn't lying in chapter 7. And then we all pretty much know everything that's going down in chapter 7. And so we skip over to chapter 9, where they talk about how Ronnie was quiet and never really spoke about feelings or showed them, and how when Chris was younger, he was socially awkward throughout his relationship with Shanann when they first met even, and when he was younger, when he didn't date in those years. He was incredibly introverted and withdrawn. He mostly kept to himself, and he didn't have a group of friends when he married Shanann. He says on his first date, he was nervous right away, and he liked her right away. He pursued her Despite her not being interested in him, you guys, he knew, because he was a narcissist, that he could win her over. And he wanted to prove that he was indispensable. And he liked the challenge that she didn't want to be with him. So in the early months of their relationship, he would sort out her medicine. He would even go to her colonoscopy. He proved his loyalty, and this type of kindness was exactly what Shanann was looking for. So Chris fit the mold. It was a fairy tale princess that came riding in on his horse. He swooped in at her worst when she was the sickest, despite his best efforts. So in the beginning, she pushed him away, but he stuck around. He was adamant. He did things that people usually wouldn't do for people unless they've been together for years and years. So in the beginning, like, he went to that colonoscopy in the beginning, and most people wouldn't have done that unless you care about somebody you've been together for a long time. But he was doing grandiose things to prove his love right from the beginning. He adored her. He let her be who she was without any apologies. And a narcissist will always look for people to show their kindness and actions to. And Chris was kind and helpful to everyone he knew. He was a man of few words, but a man of action. He would jump into action to fish for those compliments, you guys. He had traits of a man that would make a great husband or father. And so she was bait and switched, you guys. He literally baited her by being everything she wanted, because he knew he had to win her over as a narcissist. So then we move on to chapter 10, and it says that on Chris's birthday, 3 months before he killed her, Shanann shared a birthday post for Chris on Facebook. So even when he was changing and things were flipping around, she still was so deeply in love with him. She said, "Today I celebrate you, Chris. You are absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me in 2010. That year you were placed in my life when I was at my worst. I was just diagnosed with lupus and fibro, and I felt like my world was crumbling around me. Then I met you. We have so many incredible memories these past 8 years. 2 beautiful girls, moved halfway around the world, sold a house, built our home for our family, and all you constantly do for us. You work your butt off. You're an amazing husband and even better dad. You are the blessing I've been looking for my whole life. You are chasing big goals and dreams and never stop. You support me in so many ways. I hope you have an amazing birthday. I love you, baby." But did he ever say anything like that about Shanann? Did he ever say, "You built this business from the ground up, honey. You are amazing. I can't believe you were published in Thrive magazine. You're awesome, honey. I can't believe that you've done this for us. I can't believe." No, he never, ever complimented her unless it was some mimicked cliche thing. Boo, boo, hey, boo. So many people roll their eyes at posts like that one that Shanann made, often portraying images that people want others to believe as reality. But that's the difference. Shanann really believed this about Chris, you guys. He was good. He had won her over, and she thought she won the lottery when it came to husbands. And she didn't seem to know anything about who he really was, unfortunately. She felt that he genuinely happy, loving, and affectionately was with her. She genuinely believed he was the love of her life, and that if they did have problems, they were minor issues that couples go through together. And it was because they had been together for so long. She never, ever saw this coming, you guys. So in chapter 11, it even reiterates that everything seemed great between Piss Rots and Shanann. Then you go into chapter 13, and you see that Chris always used phrases that were so cliche. Chris was very good at mimicking words that sounded good. He probably used that phrase as a robotic response. He knew what he was supposed to say, and it held no weight, period. He would just say it, but it didn't mean anything to him. Maybe he was confused about his lustful feelings and he really thought that he was in love with NK. But in all actuality, he wasn't. He's a narcissist. He's not capable of loving anyone. So he never truly loved anyone, you guys. Not NK, not Shanann, not his children, no one. He is incapable of real love. And if you go on to chapter 15, you see that in order to get her husband to react, she said Shanann has to say things to get him riled up, to even see any kind of emotion from him. And she had no idea she was dealing with someone that was probably void of real emotion and attachment, and that he really never had any attachment to her or the children. So it was impossible for her to know what her husband was capable of. And he was consistently affectionate with her, so she felt loved and appreciated and cherished most of her marriage until he turned it off like a light switch. And when Shanann said she loved him, he responded with "love you." But then in the end, he just stopped responding. She would tell him that she loved him, and he didn't even respond because he had no regard for her as a mother with his daughters being upset. I mean, he could have faked it. He could have texted back, "I love you," in the end, just to not let her hurt so much. But he didn't care about her hurt. The only person he cared about was himself. So we go on to chapter 16. It says where Chris felt empowered to have ultimate control over his wife because now he was calling the shots. And Chris had spent his entire life being the helpful guy everyone loved, and no way could he even face the fact that he was the bad guy. He didn't want no one to know how bad he truly was. In his mind, he blamed Shanann for everything that he did. His problems in his mind were all Shanann's fault. It was Shanann's fault he cheated. Everything was her fault. And then we go on to chapter 17. We know that it says that Chris lived life with low conflict. He was always calm and being helpful to others. He was not controlling, angry, dominant, or jealous. There were zero red flags, you guys. He never displayed rage or violent episodes. He tried to avoid violence at all costs. He tried to de-escalate and never instigated. He seemed happy for Shanann to be directing him and telling him what to do. And the way that he talked about his daughters was with joy and affection. No one would ever have known that, everyone knew him to be a loving and doting father and that they were his purpose in life. But he only used that word because everybody else said that about their children. So it became a robotic response to him. His behavior was consistent throughout his life with someone who was always agreeable, likable, kind, and he just turned into a man that could violently obliterate his family all of the sudden. And that's not true. It was because he was never that kind man. He was never that loving man. That was all a mask. He was always the monster that was a family annihilator. He was just good at hiding it. He was covert and communal narcissist. Sometimes the most dangerous people in the world, you guys, are who you least expect it. It is important to know how to spot them. This tragedy could not have been avoided because she never saw any red flags. She thought that she had a happy, healthy marriage. And he presented himself to possess all the traits of a good husband and father. He fooled everyone, including his wife and his family, into thinking that he was a perfect husband and a perfect father. Do we ever truly know anyone? They do a very great job of painting an impeccable facade, narcissists do. They're very good to you in the beginning and for the most of the time that you're together until they get to the dumping stage. So we know that there weren't any red flags, and if there were, they were incredibly subtle. Nothing that suggests that he was capable of murder. He was really good at lying, and there weren't going to be any signs. They always think that they are smarter than we are, and they believe that they would know if someone was deceiving them. And that is the end of chapter 17. So when you go into chapter 18, it just goes on to say that they have lack of empathy for others. They need admiration. What is a narcissist is what we're going over right now from chapter 18, I believe. Did I say 18? Yes. So then we get into chapter 18 and it tells you what a narcissist is. And I read that in the DSM-5 to you guys. And basically a flat out narcissist you would be able to see red flags with. But unfortunately, ladies, with the covert and the communal that I'm getting ready to get into detail about, you won't be able to tell. And so you really need to listen to this part. I hate that stupid forces that be made my internet blurry and I can't talk to you. I can't look you in the eyes because this is the part that I want everyone to listen to, because you could be with a communal or covert narcissist right now and have no idea, and it will end in murder one day. And you had no idea you were with someone like this. Poor Shanann couldn't see it coming. Chris never led on to anyone about this. So please listen up, ladies. A narcissist lacks empathy for others, or they have a need for admiration. They believe they are superior or special. Their self-esteem is very fragile, though. They do not take even the slightest criticism well. They exaggerate their own importance. They are preoccupied with success, beauty, intelligence, the idea of romance. They believe that they're special and can only be understood by other special people. They require constant attention, admiration from us. They have unreasonable expectations, and they are unreasonable in their favorable treatment for themselves. They take advantage just so they can reach their own goals. They disregard your feelings. They lack empathy. They believe other people are envious of them. Now, that's easy to spot, right? Well, listen to this. This is the covert narcissist, you guys, and you won't be able to spot these people in a crowd. This is what they do. They are passive aggressive narcissists, okay? They may say, yeah, you really shouldn't be doing that. I used to do that and I changed, so I know that you can too. You see what it's gaslighting all the time. These types of narcissists do not seek outward admiration and attention. So they're not saying, hey, look at me, look at me. What they're doing is they're being so good in their behaviors and their actions that they're getting the compliments they want because you think they're so giving. They'll give a bum $100 on the street in front of 50 other people that they would never give that bum that $100 if no one saw it. You see what I mean? They're the ones that want the waitress to see the tip that they're giving instead of leaving it on the table and anonymously leaving. So they seek compliments. They seek attention for their amazing behavior. So they do still lack empathy, and they do take advantage of others. They may be quiet or shy, and often are, but on the inside, they still harbor overblown visions of themselves, their futures, their dreams. And an example is one day that they might be discovered remarkable or intelligent more than anyone else. They're introverted. They don't advertise or inflate their own egos. In a group of friends, they feel very alone and uneasy. A communal narcissist is another type of narcissist, you guys. Listen to this one. It's even harder to find a communal narcissist because they're addicted to feeling special and unique, and they do whatever it takes to get that high. A communal narcissist is described as the most helpful and caring person. They are doing nice things to get admiration and attention. A communal narcissist gives generously to charity. They work with nonprofits. They might be president of the PTA. They might be a religious leader. They always do good deeds for others, and they are martyrs, but they make sure those good deeds are seen by the world. They grandstand with their good deeds. They may boast about all their generosity to let you know that they are selfless and they do all this work. But it's also possible that they won't brag at all about their good deeds. They will just do them hoping that someone will see it and that you will go ahead and volunteer a compliment. They thrive off of approval and being helpful to people. And those behaviors are what gets them the praise from others. Some of the criteria of a communal narcissist are these. They feel, I am the most helpful person. I am the greatest friend anyone could ever have. I am the best parent on the planet. I am the most caring person in my social network. I am the kindest person on YouTube. I enrich people's lives. I am the most understanding. I am the most trustworthy or loyal person you will ever meet. And they can relate to themselves saving the world. They literally think that they are saving the world, you guys. They want to be famous for their good deeds, but it's all focused on aspects of themselves. They make feeling aspects of themselves to get themselves to feel special or unique. So they lack the ability to empathize still, just like a regular narcissist. They are involved in the community, but it's only to validate themselves, okay? They have a sense of entitlement that the world owes them something. They are so fixated on the need to feel special that other people's feelings cease to matter. Anyone with narcissistic personality disorder can become abusive over time, you guys. Anyone with narcissistic personality disorder can become abusive over time. The abuse is dangerous. Narcissists can be calculating about hiding their abusive side. They all are manipulative. They get addicted to feeling special. Now, a malignant narcissist is who Dr. Phil thinks that Chris or Pissrots is. That is the extreme version of narcissistic personality disorder. That's mixing narcissism with antisocial personality disorder, and it's often displaying as paranoia, pathological lying, violence, extreme lack of empathy, and manipulation. So that is the worst kind of narcissist. Then we have, continuing in that chapter, narcissism is hard to treat, okay? Because a narcissist will never go to psychotherapy. Narcissists don't think they have a problem. They think that they know better than anyone else. Even someone in that field, they think they're smarter than a psychiatrist that's been to med school, you guys. They think they know better than anyone else, and the only reason they would seek therapy is because they have hit rock bottom and have no other options. Or they go to couples therapy, like I told you, thinking that the therapist will team up with them against the other person. They believe that the therapist will collude with them and tell their partner that their partner's the problem. A traditional narcissist blames his or her partner for all the problems and will agree to go to couples therapy only if the therapist will see the partner as a problem too. Narcissists have defenses in place, almost impenetrable. All right. And self-reflection or self-awareness, that's non-existent in a narcissist. You're never going to get accountability, you guys. If you do, it's usually self-serving to benefit them. Piss Rots refused counseling, and he has yet to receive a psychiatric evaluation. A classic narcissist believe that they are smarter and know more in the field of psychiatry than the psychiatrist. They convince themselves that they have won the psychiatrist over with their charm. They think that they've worked their magic on everyone. They don't, and they don't believe that someone can see through their manipulation. They believe that they are the smartest, most convincing person on the planet. That is their downfall, you guys. That overconfidence is how they make mistakes. That is why they have little self-awareness, and their relationships are laden with conflict because they don't see how they contribute. The covert narcissist, they're the shocking the most. The covert types are very likable and humble. They work hard in therapy. They seem to really improve. But later you might find out they were lying the whole time and engaging in crazy stuff behind their partner's back. It's possible treating a narcissist depending on the severity, but it's not easy. They have to learn to change their ways of relating to people and helping others. They have to see their vulnerabilities as strengths rather than weaknesses. We have to teach a narcissist empathy. Studies have shown that narcissists are capable of empathy, but they do not put in effort to take anyone else's perspective into play but their own. A narcissist looks for relationships just to get their narcissistic supply. They protect their self at all expense. A narcissist inability to connect in a healthy way with another person is obvious. What they do is they connect with people not so they can be attached or love them. They connect with people's narcissistic supply. And what that is their attention, their compliments, their praise, their sex, their feeling of power, their control, so they can accomplish something. Maybe they want an addictive substance or an activity, or they want your emotional energy, whether it's positive or negative. So they find value in people, and when they are giving them that supply. But if you stop giving them that supply, you have no value anymore to them. Without that supply, you are nothing. You are not useful to the narcissist anymore because you're not providing them the supply they desperately need. Narcissists don't think of you as a person with a real attachment. They think of you as a supply that they crave, and that is what they thrive off of. A narcissist does not show real emotion or empathy, but they are great mimics. What they say and do win people over because they parrot empathy. And it seems like they're caring individuals, but they're really just acting. They will pursue a romantic relationship by finding their target first. And we know that Chris saw Shanann as a target from Facebook, and he sent her a friend request and she didn't really accept it, and he kept on. And so they find their target, and then their target has to be someone they perceive of having high empathy. They look for people that are very empathetic. They want somebody very forgiving just in case their mask falls off and you see them for the person that they really are. They need somebody that's going to forgive them and to believe that they're going to try to change. So we know that they prey upon the weak in moments of weakness, And the weakness is their upper hand for the narcissist. So they can swoop in and act like you're saving grace. And that will supply them with their narcissistic supply. Chris pursued Shanann at a very low point in her life. The first phase of a narcissistic relationship is love bombing. Okay, listen closely to this. Love bombing is when someone makes overwhelming, extreme romantic gestures in order to win someone over. Love bombing can include things like going to see romantic movies, because romantic comedies are full of these love bombing things. And so it makes the person that they're love bombing think that this is normal, that this is how people act all the time in these cheesy romantic comedies. And so it gives the person they causes them to put their guard down. They don't think that them telling me they love me on day 2 is because they're weird. They think, oh, we watched this romantic movie and it brought out the how much connection we have, and he really does love me, instead of it being too soon. So love bombing is a huge red flag, you guys. Someone you don't know well seems certain about you being the one for them, gives you reason to pause. If you haven't known them long and you haven't dated them that long and they're already ready to commit, then you need to be alarmed that this is a narcissist. A narcissist will know that you are the one right away, and they will tell you so. You're the one for me. We have this unique, special bond. I can't see my life without you within the first week. It can even feel stalkerish, like their behavior is being acted out from one of the romantic comedies that you see. And instead of being skeptical to these things because of romantic comedies and this false hope that you can meet and fall in love within seconds, makes people think it's real, and it causes them to be drawn to the narcissist instead of running from them. At first, they may wine and dine you, shower you with gifts, show up at your house or workplace, but your gut sense, you need to know that this is something that should be creeping you out and not falling for. They try to make you think that you have finally found someone that treats you the way that you deserve to be treated. But then the second stage comes from a narcissist. And the second stage is the devaluing stage. A narcissist is comfortable and they feel like they've won you over. Then they'll start to show signs that they aren't that person they were when they were love bombing you. All of a sudden, that mask is going to start falling off and you're going to see the real them. Okay? They'll start to show signs that they're not that person, that they're like a Jekyll and Hyde. They start giving you subtle, underhanded comments, or they might just be outright mean and cruel. But you'll see that they will withdraw. They no absolute reason at all. It will just flip like a switch, you guys. The same person that once adored you will become contempt and hostile. It will be incredibly confusing to you. And so they will revert back to the ideal partner again. All of a sudden, you see them for who they are. The mask falls off. You want to leave. You find out this is not really the person you thought they were. And then all of a sudden, they're right back to love bombing you. They're right back to showering you with flowers. They're right back to telling you all the right things, to giving you all these cliche words. They're right back to showering you with gifts as soon as they think that you are ready to leave, or that you might see them for who they are. And they do that very quickly. Like just like they flipped it off, they'll flip it right back on. And the cycle continues. When the nice person shows up, they'll be around for a little while. So you have some kind of hope that you try to hold on to. And then once they get you comfortable again, they're right back to devaluing you. A narcissist will play the victim and give a sob story about how they were unwanted and unloved. A narcissist is always the martyr. No amount of love will ever be enough for a narcissist, you guys, because they view people as objects. You fulfill their needs. No one needs matter to them at all. They are incapable of love. And then the final, most devastating stage of a narcissist relationship is the final phase, and that's the discard phase, the one that we saw that Shanann was in from Chris. The ultimate rejection, you guys. The narcissist no longer has any need for you. They no longer get narcissistic supply from you. They discard you. They want nothing to do with you. And the rejection will be cold and heartless, and they will leave you feeling like you meant nothing to them. A narcissist will find a new person. The narcissist will leave you and never hear from you again. They could care less. They leave and they get a new relationship with no remorse. It can cause that person that they left serious psychological and emotional damage. But the narcissist is done with you. They don't care anymore. You're garbage to them that they discarded. People believe something is wrong with them when this happens. You think it's you. You think you made them do this to you. And in all actuality, they are incapable of emotion or love. They have no empathy, even though they often display kindness and adoration and attraction to you. They're great mimics because they can seem caring and warm, but they're mimicking it. They have little self-awareness, little sense of self, so they have to pretend, they have to make believe, they have to fake these behaviors and emotions to fit in. So they are constantly practicing these emotions because they can't get them genuine. So they have to practice them and pretend to have them. And they get actually quite good at pretending. Chris displayed none of the traits until right before he murdered his family. We will unlikely get a functional MRI of Chris's brain ever. And she feels, the author in this book, that there's possibly areas in his brain where empathy and emotion are compromised. She says that it could be from some environmental factors and upbringing, but that was not the reason that Chris killed his family. And we all know that the reason why he did is because he was a blatant narcissist. He was a blatant communal narcissist. He was a blatant malignant narcissist. He was a blatant covert narcissist. He was just good at putting on the mask that made him look like a doting father and husband and kind and gentle man. That was all part of the act. That was all part of his winning Shanann over. That was all part of the facade that he had to put on to be able to get this amazing woman that was so beautiful that he really wasn't worthy of. So if you had any questions, we got up to chapter 19. We will finish chapter 19 through, I believe it's, what's the last chapter? 21. We'll finish the last 3 chapters in another video, and hopefully I'll be able to get my internet to cooperate. So if you had any questions or things that you said during the video, go ahead and repeat them, because I did not get to look at chat during that because I wanted to get a lot of what is in the book out, so we didn't have to go chapter by chapter. Because I have some other books that I got yesterday in the true crime section of Barnes & Noble. And one of them is the Sophie Hayes story. It's my story of surviving, escaping, and transcending abduction into prostitution. And it's a Sophie Hayes, and it's about being trafficked. So let me see if I can get... blurry. Okay. Is it blurry? Oh, wow, Natasha. Yes, my ex was the identical too. Yes, I did get some good ones. So this is the one that I got that I want to do next. Trafficked. My story of surviving, escaping, transcending abduction and to prostitution. And then I got this one. Gage, will you go get the book beside the bed in my room that I left on the floor? It's right beside the bed. I also got this one of the Castro girls, Michelle Knight's story. She told her story. And then I got the book of the other two Castro girls who told their story together. Dehus and Amanda Berry told theirs in another book. And that's the book that I got called Hope. Okay, so this is the story of Amanda Berry and Gina De Jesus. And this is the Castro guy that had them. And I am, particular about this Castro case because my last name used to be Castro when I was married, you guys. I was Donna Castro. So when that happened 10 years ago, I was a Castro. And I used to say no relation. I'd say Donna Castro, no relation, because that was just devastating. And there's actually pictures on the inside of this book. So when I cover this one on the channel, I'm going to cover all three of these on the channel. I will dive deep into them, and I can't wait to cover those with you guys and get into that. And then we are also going to get into wanted segments. So we're first going to cover Brian Keith Freeman. And he was, I'm not going to say a lot because Gage is standing here, but he is somebody that is wanted right now that I really, really want to help try to catch. And if we can get his face out there and his information out there, then by all means, we might be able to find him. But he's an attractive young man. And so I worry about him meeting up with other women when he is a suspect in a homicide. And this is what he looks like. Another Patrick Frazee on our hands.
I can shake the computer with just tapping my foot.
So this is a picture of him. Okay. This man right here. And then here's a picture of him actually smiling. Kind of smirking. So this man could be anywhere. He could be going hunting with your husband for all you know. We could be walking amidst all these wanted people and have no idea. So I feel instead of covering these missing children cases that end up making me so upset and mad at the law enforcement for dropping the ball or for not doing the job right, maybe we can help in trying to bring some of these people to justice and getting these faces out there in case you're in the supermarket and you see one of these guys. Yes, thank you, girl. Thank you, A. Andrews. I've got to figure out how somehow you lost your wrench, and I've got to figure out how to add you back. I need to see where I can find your URL. Yes, so it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm super excited. And I only have to do one more video to finish up this book. So do you guys not have sound? Oh, great. Is everything good now? Are we back? Are we back? Are we good? So these are my new nail strips that I sell. Look at them. They're Puma, you guys. These are 100% real polish that you just stick on, file down, and go. We have 305 sets to choose from, and the link for that is down below. You'll see that link, and you can go there. And if you use the code B4, use the number 4, B4, use this code right here. If you use the code on the website, this code right here, let me put it on the thing. If you order off of my nail link, is it showing? Okay. Why is it not showing? Show. Okay. So if you order off of my nail link down below this video and you use that code right there, you'll get buy 4, get the 5th one free. Instead of buy 8, get 1 free, my new company is buy 4, get 1 free. So use that code on the coupon section and you will get 5 sets of nails for 20 bucks, y'all. Yes. Or you can just get 1 set if that's what you want. But there's so many different to choose from. I recommend the gels because they are identical to the other company I used to work for, except they're made with gel polish. So you will love them. The ones on the board that I saw that come on a flat board, they're just stuck on a flat board, all of the strips themselves on one board. Those I have found to be the quality of the company that I used to work for that starts with a C and an S. So if you are more partial to CS strips, then the ones on the board are thinner and they're like CS strips instead of the thicker ones that we're all used to through the company I used to work for. So if you prefer the strips to be thinner, then get the ones on the board. But if you prefer the thickness of the strips that we've always had, then get the gels. I do not know what the strips are. I have not opened them. Hand me, is it over there? Where did I put that?
What are you trying to find?
It's a little bag that I had everything in. Is it here? No. Maybe. Yeah, hand me that. Just to see. The bottom one. The bottom one. Okay. So these right here, I have not got to try yet. They come in a simply polished packaging, and then when you pull them out of the package, they look like this. Now these I haven't tried yet, so I don't know the thickness of them, if they're closer to the company I used to work for, or if they're closer like these Puma ones, if they're thinner. Now, I feel like the ones on the thinner ones, if you use a top coat, they'll be the exact same thickness as the others. But you don't need a top coat on these. These come from the website, and they're just like the company I worked for before, identical. And they're still only $5. These are great for St. Patrick's Day. But no worries, you guys, if you're not big on ordering from a website. I did order 200 sets of nails, and they will be here maybe next week. And I'll start doing pop-up shops with about 50 sets of nails each time. So you can just order directly from me, and you don't have to deal with a website. But if you don't want to wait for them to get here next week, then you're more than welcome to go to my link down below. I do get paid the same night, you guys. So if you order today, this girl gets paid tonight. So feel free to go on there, use the code that's on the screen, and get you 5 sets of nail strips, 100% real polish, and does wonders to your fingernails because it makes them so strong and they last forever. So check that out. Also, my Mary Kay website is down below. I do not know if I'm going inactive next month or not. I'll have to check it out. But if it is, then today will be the last day to order to where I'm going to get credit. And then what else? My life coaching introductory offer. Remember, you guys, I will not spend an hour on the phone with you the way that I do as your friend. That's different. When we're talking and we're spending an hour on the phone and we're just being friends and supporting each other, that's a friend. A life coach does not do that. A life coach asks you questions. A life coach supports you, helps you start action on your own, and will not give you advice and will not tell you what to do. But what we will do is help you find it within yourself to change the things that you need to change so you can be successful. So if you are one of my closest friends and you're like, well, we already spend hours on the phone talking, that's not the same service that you get from me as a life coach. It's totally different. I am doing $25 an hour from now for the duration. I was going to do $50 an hour, but I decided to bring life coaching to people where it's affordable, where we can actually bring it to the middle class, to, you know, people that don't have a lot of money. And so you will get an hour of me being your cheerleader on anything that you want to work on for $25. You don't have to do it every month or every week. If you don't want to, you can just do it once in a while, but you will not be disappointed. So get your hour scheduled with me today. Let me put my email. Yes. And now Gage is going to take it away. He has had his medicine today, you guys. That's why you see a different kid here. This is the way he is when he's learning and doing his school. So email me at this email if you are wanting to schedule a life coach session. It's $25. Oops, wrong one. Where did it go? They jumped up on me. Did I not just type it in? Where'd my... Oh, there it is. Okay. At this email address, okay? And we will get you on. I am filling up fast. I'm getting lots of clients, you guys, and they are returning. So I'm obviously doing something right. So I want to make sure that I still have room for you and I don't get too overwhelmed. I'm only going to do Monday through Friday. Any time of the day, it can be day or night, but I am going to keep the weekends available for my family. So if you would like life coaching started in your life on any area, I specialize in grief. I specialize in recovering from domestic violence. I specialize in getting your direct sales business off the ground. I specialize in addiction, life after addiction. I specialize in high functioning Asperger's or high functioning autism, and how to get your life from chaotic to scheduled and a routine, because that helps a lot, and first and then, and visual boards and all of that. So just let me know, reach out to me if it sounds like something you're interested in. And what else? I think that's it. I think I told you guys everything besides the wanted segments that are getting ready to come. So what's up, buddy? You want to talk to everybody?
No.
He's not very talkative on his medicine. He just stays focused. Let me get this out of his face, though. So you can see he's still my wonderful son. We've got to Uber to Walmart when we get off of here to get him some allergy medicine because his nose is just pouring. Oh, the t-shirts. Yes. As soon as I get off the live, I will message my t-shirt lady and find out when it's, as soon as I get mine that I ordered, I will show it to the channel and take pre-orders. And we will get them all made and get it done. I promise you. It says MAMABUDEEZ on the back in football letters. Unless you don't want that on there, you can just get the front that says, "Hey girl, hey." And the hey is hey, not just hey. It's hey girl, hey, or hey boy, hey. And I do plan on eventually having shirts that say "I trolled you so," because Gage came up with that, and I feel like that's going to blow up on YouTube at some point in time. So we want everyone to know that Gage made that word up. I trolled you so.
I am going to be a meme.
Yes, you're going to be a meme.
Soon.
Thank you, A. Andrews. They said, "Have a good day, Gage." Yes, it's okay, girl. They love your shirt.
Thank you.
He said, "Thank you."
If you're wondering what the little pictures on my shirt are, they're islands. And yep.
Islands and palm trees. Oh, yeah. Yes, I was so happy. I got to see A. Andrews last night, you guys. It was so cool meeting up with her from the channel. Frey, is there somebody out there? Check it for me, Gage. Is it dark? And I had the best birthday, you guys. Only 2 people besides my daughter ended up showing up. And one person was from the channel. And the other person was my best friend from high school. And we just had a good old time. I ended up getting crab legs. I ate. I was taking pictures of the night and documenting the night. But as soon as the crab legs hit the table, I put the phone down and never looked at it again. I just concentrated on, I mean, there were shells and little pieces of crab leg flying everywhere because I don't play when it comes to my crab legs. I don't want them to get cold. So what I do is I just start using my hands. I start breaking them in the middle and pulling them out. I mean, my hands get crab leggy. I do not play because there's nothing worse than cold crab legs. Yeah, it was an accident that we came up with. I trolled you so. It was hilarious. Okay, let me get Frey. Let me get for French Frey. Frey, what you doing?
Mediocre.
Say hi to the channel. Don't type on the board. Frey. Oh, he's so heavy. Here, stand right there. There we go. There we go.
We should let Frey just put his paws on the computer and see what he types.
Okay, there we go. No, don't back up. You'll fall. You'll fall.
No.
There we go. Frey, show. Say hi. He's trying to pat me. It's your baby Frey. Look at the camera, Frey. He thinks it's a game.
He's gonna fall off.
I got him. He won't. It's a game. He thinks it's a game. He thinks I'm playing
The
with
chair
him.
is wet.
Oh, did I sit in it?
Yes, you did.
Oh, that's his slobber. He's a bully. He's a bulldog. That's what they do. Okay. There's the mascot. Yeah, he is way cooler in real life because you can't get the right angle. Like, you guys can't really see how cute he is and his little face. I mean, you can't stay mad at this dog ever. Yes, he is. He's like going to Fur Baby Disneyland. He really is. That's why I wanted him so bad. And he's a blue fawn French bulldog. Blue fawn. So he's got the blue trait in him. So he's very rare.
Mediocre.
I love you, Frey. All right. Well, I love you guys too. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. And remember, if you want to get into Patreon, we're doing a live bingo game in there next Friday on March 6th. And I'm mailing out all of the bingo cards on Monday. So you only have today or tomorrow to get into my Patreon to be able to get charged on the 1st to be able to play in that bingo game, because anyone that's not charged on March 1st won't be able to play in that bingo game. So it's going to be fun. I'm sending out 2 cards to people that are in the Patreon, and you'll have them by next Friday, I'm hoping, and we will play the game, and 1 bingo on 1 card will get you a free set of nails. Then we're going to play another game on those same 2 cards, and we're going to be looking for 2 good bingos. When 1 person gets 2 good bingos, we are going to give 2 sets of nails to that person. And then we're going to play a blackout bingo on both of those cards, and the person with blackout will get 3 sets of nails free from me. And we're going to be doing that every month in my Patreon. So I am super excited. It's like a little family in there. And if you have to leave the Patreon because you don't have money one month, that's totally fine. You can come back when you do. If you want to take your tier down from 25 or 9 down to 3, that's fine too. Do what you can. Okay. I just want to be able to reward the people that actually pay to be in there. And we are reading Discovery in there, but I'm not finding a lot of time to do that. But we definitely will make sure that I get your bingo games to you and make sure that we eventually finish the Discovery in there. So I want to be able to look up the Discovery for the Patrick Frazee case or discoveries for other cases, maybe the Harley case, and be able to go over Discovery documents all the time in the Patreon. So that's something that we're also always doing in there. It's a sweet little family. I love my Patreon. I love you guys as well. You guys are awesome. If it weren't for each and every one of you, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't have this drive. I wouldn't have this passion. I mean, it was through your support that I was able to continue to do this. So I just appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, we still do those giveaways every 500 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and we will see you soon. And next time, I promise to reset the internet before I even attempt to do a live. So, and you've seen Gage isn't on the internet, so I don't know what it is. Maybe just the weekends it slows up, but eventually I'm going to get better internet, you guys. I promise. Hey, Patty. Hey, sister. Hey, sister. She said hey to you too. Miss your face. I will talk to you guys later, and thank you all for being here for us. We appreciate it, don't we, Gage?
Mediocre.
Who's mediocre? Mediocre is not a good word. It's like, it's okay. That's what mediocre means.
Mediocre.
Am I mediocre? I'm a mediocre mom.
Mediocre.
You just like that word?
Yes.
Okay, bye, guys. We'll see you soon.
I have something to say.
Oh, he has something to say.
Mediocre.
I don't want no mediocre. I don't want no mediocre. See y'all later. Bye.